Did Sam Shamoun formally convert to the Catholic Church? Or has he not formally converted, but he presents himself as a Catholic and a Catholic apologist? I'm going to explore this with you in great detail with evidence coming up next. This is not a show I wanted to do. I kept my mouth shut for a long time, but not anymore, because Sam opened the door to this very question. Sam is the one who opened the door. So let's go ahead and walk through it together, Sam, because you've made statements publicly about me. You have told people that I'm a new convert to the Catholic Church. You have told people that I shouldn't teach in the Catholic Church and that I need to get off social media because you've told them I'm a new convert to the Catholic Church. Some Catholics have even said this. Most of the time I look the other way. Not anymore. Tired of it. Not giving people a pass anymore. Let me now show you my paperwork showing you when I converted to Catholicism. And now I'm going to show you other information that is very alarming about whether or not Sam Shamoun has been presenting himself as a Catholic and a Catholic apologist, but he is not in formal communion. He's the one who opened the door. So Sam, don't be mad at me. You're the one who opened the door to this. Let's go ahead and walk through it together. Now, let me produce my receipts so that everybody is on the same page. And all you Catholics who have been lying about me, you can now go to confession, and you can too, Sam. Now, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me show you this document right here. I can show you numerous other documents. I have receipts for everything about me and my relationship to the Catholic Church. I've kept my mouth shut for years. When Catholics say I'm a new convert to the Catholic Church, that I just converted. No, I converted in 2012, as I've told y'all numerous times. Let's go through the receipt, since Sam wants to open the door to this one. Certificate of Confirmation. St. Matthew Catholic Church, 121 Jackson Street, Monroe, Louisiana, 71201. Still fully functional parish. You can Google it. There's even pictures of me serving at the altar there. This is the certified Christopher Michael Lofton. Everybody knows that's my full name. Told y'all the story behind why I go by Michael, not Christopher. I grew up in Israel. Couldn't go by Christopher for obvious reasons there. Pio of Pietrelcina, confirmation saint. Redacted my parents' name. Y'all don't need that. Some of you trolls would probably try to harass people. So, where was I baptized? Eagles Nest World Prayer Center, Monroe, Louisiana. And that was, I want to say 2001. I have the certificate for it. I could produce that if y'all want, but it's really a moot point. I produced it to the parish, and that was good enough for them. Received the sacrament of confirmation April 7th of 2012. Oh, am I a new convert, guys? All you Catholics out there yapping about me saying that I'm a new convert, where are you guys at now? You want to still keep telling your followers that when you got egg on your face? Sam, you want to keep telling people I'm new to Catholicism when you got egg on your face? What does that say? That says 2012. That's 13 years ago, isn't it? Uh-huh. Right. So at what parish? St. Matthew Catholic Church, Monroe, Louisiana, Diocese of Shreveport. Father Legio Thomas was the one who confirmed me. He was not the pastor. He was the assistant pastor at the time. Full pastor at the time was Father Puthapali, I believe, who's now passed away. Thomas Kennedy, who's now a priest, was my sponsor. This was signed and dated by the issuer August 28th of 2012. Okay, so you opened the door to this, Sam. You opened the door by telling people repeatedly that I'm a new convert and I need to stop teaching and I need to get off YouTube. Okay. All right. So there you go. You're going to stand corrected. But since you opened the door to this question, we need to explore it a little bit more, don't we? Yeah. Because if new converts shouldn't be teaching, what about guys who haven't actually formally converted? Should they be teaching? Should they be Catholic apologists? Okay. So let's go ahead and examine some things. Now, as I'm showing here, Sam has accused me, but I'm not going to return the favor. I'm just going to limit myself to asking questions. I'm just asking questions, Sam. And maybe you can give some clarification in light of the information I'm about to present to this audience. Everyone has been telling me Sam converted to Catholicism, but has he actually formally converted to Catholicism? I'm seeing videos of him online, and I've watched the videos where he says he's converted to the Catholic Church. Y'all have seen this. You can just do a quick Google search where he's making that claim in multiple streams. I'll show you just a few, just so you know that I'm not making it up. Here we go. Sam Shamoun miracle on why he became Catholic on Shamounian Explains 3 weeks ago. That's weird. Huh. Okay. What else do we have? If you just look in YouTube, Sam Shamoun Catholic convert, find all kinds of stuff. Here he is on Avoiding Babylon. Sam Shamoun discusses his journey to Catholicism. Huh. Okay. That's interesting. What else we got? Let's take a look at another one. This one's fascinating because we're actually going to watch a clip from it. Sam Shamoun's Journey Home. His Journey Home conversion story by Full Sheen Ahead, Jesse Romero, and gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Terry Barber. Okay. Goes on there, says he's a convert to the Catholic Church. Numerous others, right? I'm just showing you a few. But in that video that I just pointed you to, he says some fascinating things. When was that video? That video was 3 weeks ago, as I just showed on my screen. 3 weeks ago. By the way, that video is titled again, Sam Shamoun's Journey Home Conversion Story. Sounds like he converted, right? It's weird. I mean, I've been on the journey home talking about my conversion story. It would have been weird if I went on EWTN's Journey Home talking about how I converted to Catholicism, but I didn't actually formally join Catholicism. That would be very odd, right? Okay. So what he says in this video, as I'm about to show you, is, very quickly to recap, that he was baptized when he was born into the Assyrian Church of the East. Presumably he received confirmation and Eucharist because they tend to do all three as an infant. So I, suspect he's received all three of those sacraments of initiation through the Oriental Orthodox, the Assyrian Church of the East. So in the Assyrian Church of the East, not Eastern Orthodox, not Oriental Orthodox. It's its own entity. Okay. He says that that's what he started out with when he was born. He then says he considered Islam. He then says he became convinced of Christianity. He went the Protestant route, did that for a long time. And then he says that he becomes Catholic. Take a look at this with me, just so I can produce the receipts. And again, let me know if y'all have any difficulty in hearing this in the chat, and you'll see where I'm going with this in just a second.
Well, I was born Assyrian. The Assyrians are part of the Assyrian Church of the East. In the West, the Assyrian Church is called Nestorian. I'm sure you guys know this. Know that better than I.
Okay. Assyrian Church of the East, the Nestorian Church, broke away with the Third Ecumenical Council, Council of Ephesus. I've talked about this, in great detail here on this channel when I go through church history aspects and patristic aspects. Anyways, okay, so he belonged to that communion. That's where he was baptized. He then goes over how Protestantism, very well known. He's been very well known as a Protestant apologist for a while. But watch what he says 3 weeks ago at the 7:55 minute mark, 7 minutes 55 seconds. Watch this and pay attention.
I returned and I'm in the Catholic Church. So I'm Catholic, but I'm still not an expert. I don't know. I'm learning, relearning, unlearning. So I'm Catholic apologist. I don't want to give out my location, but thank God I went to the Eucharist yesterday. So I pray for my journey to finish it.
Pray for my journey to finish it. That's a weird thing to say. You know why he's saying that? Because it appears he hasn't been formally received into the Catholic Church. How would a man who is an Assyrian Church of the East man become a Catholic? Do you know the canonical process? I'm going to walk you through it. There's a reason why he just said that. There's a reason why he just used that language. He didn't explain it. But if you know canon law and you know the process of reception for someone in Sam's position, you'll know exactly why he said that. Because if you haven't gone through the canonical process and made a public profession of faith, you have not been formally received into the Catholic Church, and you are still on paper, according to the Catholic Church, considered a non-Catholic, even if you've received all the sacraments of initiation from your previous church. This applies to Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Assyrian Church of the East. And I'm about to show you all of that information so you can't argue and say, well, no, that's not the way it works. I will show you. I will produce the receipts. Just watch. But did you catch what he said? He said, I'm a Catholic and a Catholic apologist. Did you hear that? Catholic apologist. Can somebody who has not been formally received into full communion with the Catholic Church be a Catholic apologist? That's my question. Watch it again.
I returned and I'm in the Catholic Church. So I'm Catholic, but I'm still not an expert. I don't know. I'm learning, relearning, unlearning. So I'm Catholic apologist. I don't want to give out my location, but thank God I went to the Eucharist yesterday. So I pray for my journey to finish it. So that's where I'm at.
Wow.
Let me ask you.
3 weeks ago, pray for my journey to finish it. But he tells them, I'm a Catholic and a Catholic apologist. Okay, let's consider if that's actually true in light of the evidence and the information. Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a whole bunch of followers who are faithful followers of Sam started contacting me in the last few days saying, Michael, Sam has not been formally received into the Catholic Church. And I'm like, well, I guess I owe him an apology. I've been calling him a Catholic and a Catholic apologist. I guess I owe Sam an apology here. Sam, sorry. If that's true, I've been falsely labeling you a Catholic and I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. They've been coming to me, and when I see faithful followers of Sam who watch him regularly and religiously contacting me saying, yeah, he hasn't been fully received, that alerted me to this, because I'm like, wait, you opened the door to this when you lied to people and told them that I'm a new convert to the Catholic Church. You opened the door to it when you said that I shouldn't be teaching and that new converts shouldn't be teaching. And now it's really been opened when his followers are contacting me telling me, yeah, actually, he hasn't fully converted. What does that process look like? How do you become in full communion and fully convert formally into the Catholic Church, where you can now call yourself a Catholic from his situation, Assyrian Church of the East? How does that happen? It's the same process for Oriental Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox. And it's the same process for whether or not you go into an Eastern Catholic communion or a Latin Rite communion. So whether you're Eastern Catholic or Latin Rite. And actually, there's an added step if you want to be Latin Rite. Let's walk through it together. Let's walk through it together. And let's then ask Sam some very important questions and see if he can produce receipts on him having fully converted into the Catholic Church. Okay, so you saw him say Assyrian Church of the East. Great. What is the sui juris analogous jurisdiction whenever you're Assyrian Church of the East and you come into full communion with the Catholic Church? What is the church you're supposed to enter? It's supposed to be the Chaldean Church, the Chaldean Catholic Church. If you're going to go somewhere else, you have to request a canonical transfer from both the bishop of your jurisdiction and the Latin Rite bishop. I'll show that to you here in a moment. But here's Chaldean diocese telling people, here's how someone like Sam needs to fully convert. Okay? The reception of adults into full communion with the Catholic Church. I know he doesn't act like an adult, but he is an adult. So this describes Sam. updated in 2023. Adults who have been validly baptized in another church or Christian ecclesial community, that is a Protestant. So either Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Assyrian Church of the East, or Protestant, who desire to receive confirmation, first penance, and first communion must be first received into full communion with Catholic Church. Now, that doesn't describe Sam because he has already received, presumably, in my understanding, he would have already received not only baptism, confirmation, but Eucharist. If he hasn't, then he has to go through the fuller process. Consideration needs to be given as to how the adult may be supported in living out the Catholic faith by the parish, family, godparents, and other mentors. Profession of faith must be included in the liturgical rites as they are being received into the Catholic Church. So if you've already received baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist in your previous community, you don't have to repeat those sacraments. However, a profession of faith has to be made in the liturgy publicly to be fully received and now say that you are Catholic. Has Sam done this? What is that profession of faith? Well, they're going to show it to you here in a moment. It's the one that I talk about at every other stream. The one promulgated by John Paul II, the one that has the Nicene Creed, Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, followed by 3 paragraphs affirming all dogmas, all definitive Catholic doctrine, and affirming all non-definitive teachings of the Church, which Sam doesn't hold to all non-definitive teachings of the Church. So it would be odd if he has made the profession of faith, he's been violating his own profession of faith, but whatever. Okay. A document attesting to a valid baptism in another church or Christian ecclesial community must be presented on behalf of the adult seeking to be received into full communion with the Catholic Church. So he has to show them. He has to show them that he has received those sacraments as an infant or as an adult. In this case, he said it was when he was an infant. He has to show that to the parish. And then he has to make the profession of faith. Adults from separated Eastern churches, Orthodox churches, for example, or also Oriental Orthodox and Assyrian Church of the East, are fully initiated at the time of baptism. That is, they receive baptism, chrismation, and Eucharist in one ceremony. Since these sacraments are valid, they're not repeated when an adult from such a church comes into full communion. So notice they're not in full communion yet until they come into full communion. How do you come into full communion? Profession of faith. Comes into full communion with the Catholic Church. So they don't have to repeat the sacraments of initiation, but it says they are to participate in a program similar to that provided by the parish for other preparing for full initiation, like OCIA, RCIA. Following such catechetical formation, which Sam needs, they celebrate first penance and first communion. So they go to confession and then receive the Eucharist. Therefore, in these instances, no liturgical rite is required, but simply a profession of Catholic faith. You have to make the profession of faith publicly. I just spoke to a priest. Let me just read to you what the priest says. When a validly baptized person is received into the Catholic Church, they make a profession of faith, go to confession, and are received during Mass. If prior confirmation was invalid, it is conferred. Then they are admitted to the Eucharist and recorded in parish records. So there would be an actual record of this after having formally and publicly made a profession of faith. If you don't do that, you are not yet in full communion. And according to the Catholic Church, you're not actually Catholic. And you can't call yourself a Catholic until you make that profession of faith. And again, it says, see Appendix 1 for the profession of faith. And it's, again, the same JP2 Professio Fidei that we've discussed numerous times. Sam, have you actually done this? Have you gone to a parish and formally made the profession of faith? Is that why you just said in the video? Is that why you just said 3 weeks ago, pray for my journey to finish it? Is it because you know you haven't fully converted yet? You haven't actually completed the steps for conversion? And some say, well, look, hey, if he's received the sacraments of initiation, he's Catholic, right? Would you say that about Jay Dyer? Jay Dyer has received all of the sacraments. He's an Eastern Orthodox apologist. Do you think that Jay Dyer is in communion with the Catholic Church? Honest question. Well, Michael, but he can receive the Eucharist according to the Catholic Church. Yeah, so can the Eastern Orthodox. Jay Dyer can go to any Catholic Mass in the world and receive the Eucharist. Is Jay Dyer Catholic? Would you say that he's a Catholic apologist? What about James White? Is James White a Catholic apologist? Did you know that the Code of Canon Law allows James White in some qualified cases to receive the Eucharist? Did you know that? Is James White a Catholic? Let me show you some more information. Take a look at this. This is from Archdiocese of New York. Rules concerning Eastern non-Catholics becoming Catholic. See, they're recognized as non-Catholics until they come into full communion with the profession of faith. Non-Catholic Christians, when they're received into full communion of the Catholic Church, must become members of the ritual indicated by their baptism. Thus, all Protestants must become members of the Latin Church. Someone who's Greek Orthodox must become a member of the Greek Catholic Church. I think they mean the Byzantine Catholic or something analogous. An Assyrian Orthodox must become a member of the Assyrian Chaldean Church. In Sam's case, Assyrian Church of the East, the sui juris jurisdiction would be Chaldean Catholic Church. So he would have to go, he would either have to be received by the Chaldean Catholic Church, or as I'll show you in a moment, he has to get permission from the Chaldean Catholic bishop in his jurisdiction to transfer to a Latin Rite parish, and the Latin Rite bishop has to approve of it for him to be fully received into the Catholic Church under a Latin Rite jurisdiction. It's just an extra step, and it makes it a little bit harder. So you're supposed to, they're directing them to go to an Eastern jurisdiction, such as the Chaldean Catholic churches. Exceptions constitute a transfer of right or require the permission of the Holy See. So if you don't go through the two bishops, you got to go through the Vatican. If such permission is necessary, it should be sought before any participation in the formal process of the catechumenate. So before you become a catechumen. In the case of uncatechized Eastern non-Catholic candidates, if and when permission to join the Latin Rite is granted, these candidates may participate in the formation process of the catechumenate, but not in its rites. Such candidates are received with a simple profession of faith, RCIA number 474. No liturgical rite, but a simple profession of faith. They don't have to go through a liturgical rite of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist. You don't have to repeat the sacraments, but you do have to make that profession of faith. So I just showed you two different options. If he goes the Chaldean route, the Eastern Catholic route, you still got to make a profession of faith. If he goes the Latin Rite route, you got to not only make a profession of faith, but you either have to get permission from Rome, or you have to get two bishops validating it, the Eastern Catholic bishop and the local Latin Rite Catholic bishop. Makes it a lot harder. So, you know, it's just, I guess, not usually advisable to do that. Now, watch this. This is from the Dicastery for Promoting Christian Unity, from the document, Guidelines for the Admission to the Eucharist between the Chaldean Church and the Assyrian Church of the East. And this is likely what Sam is getting confused about when he thinks that he's a Catholic. I suspect Sam hasn't looked much into this, doesn't know a lot, and he's probably thinking that he's a Catholic. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not trying to assume that he's lying and bearing false witness and weaseling his way into Catholic circles. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt that he really thinks that he's a Catholic. He might be thinking of this. When necessary, or when necessity requires, and notice it's necessity, Assyrian faithful, that is Assyrian Church of the East, what he has said he is, are permitted to participate and receive Holy Communion in a Chaldean celebration of the Holy Eucharist, in the same way Chaldean faithful for whom it is physically or morally impossible to approach a Catholic minister are permitted to participate and receive Holy Communion in an Assyrian Church of the East celebration of the Holy Eucharist. So, Sam can receive the Eucharist without fully converting to Catholicism. He can receive the Eucharist, but that doesn't make him Catholic. He might think that makes him Catholic. It doesn't make him Catholic. Because guess who else can receive the Eucharist with no questions asked? The Eastern Orthodox. Are the Eastern Orthodox fully Catholic and in full communion? Of course not. Is Jay Dyer in full communion with the Catholic Church? Of course not. Is Jay Dyer a Catholic apologist? Of course not. He can walk into any Catholic church in the world, no questions asked, and receive the Eucharist according to the Code of Canon Law 844, paragraph 3, which I'll read to you here in just a second. But just by receiving the Eucharist, being allowed to receive the Eucharist does not make you fully Catholic, because these canons say that non-Catholics can receive the Eucharist. So we saw that for Assyrian Church of the East, they're not Catholic, they're not in full communion, but they can receive the Eucharist. And Sam has said that he goes to a Catholic parish and receives the Eucharist. Okay, but that doesn't make him Catholic. And that also doesn't make him a Catholic apologist. Canon 844 from the Latin Rite Code of Canon Law, paragraph 3, and I can also show the corresponding Eastern Catholic Code of Canon Law. Catholic ministers administer the sacraments of penance, Eucharist, and anointing of the sick licitly to members of the Eastern churches which do not have full communion with the Catholic Church, if they seek such on their own accord and are properly disposed. That is, they haven't committed any mortal sins, and also assuming that their jurisdiction allows it. Some of the Eastern Orthodox jurisdictions do not allow their faithful to receive communion in the Catholic Church. But as long as they allow it and the Eastern Orthodox seeks it, they can receive it. Notice that. And they're not in full communion. It's very clear they're not in full communion. Did you read that? Not in full communion. Do not have full communion with the Catholic Church. That is, they're not Catholics. They're Eastern Orthodox. By the way, paragraph 4 says that Protestants can receive the Eucharist in some cases. It's a little bit more qualified for them. If the danger of death is present, or if the judgment of the diocesan bishop or conference of bishops, some other grave necessity urges it. So if any of those conditions, if there's danger of death, or if the local competent bishops decide it, or some other grave necessity urges it, Catholic ministers administer these sacraments licitly, that is lawfully, also to other Christians not having full communion with the Catholic Church, who cannot approach a minister of their own community, who seek such as their own accord, provided that they manifest Catholic faith in respect to these sacraments and are properly disposed. This is talking about Protestants. As long as they believe in the real presence, they're being respectful, under certain conditions they can receive it. Now, if James White, under these conditions, goes up to a Catholic minister and receives the Eucharist, does James White become Catholic? And is he then a Catholic apologist? No. The code says he can do it, but that doesn't make him a Catholic. What would be required for him to become a Catholic? He would have to receive the sacrament of confirmation and make a profession of faith, just like I had to do. Okay? Now, let's continue. Let me show you something else. Pull it up here. I have some questions. Sam, did you think, and do you think that you're Catholic right now because you've been receiving the Eucharist in a Catholic church, according to your own words? Is that what you thought? Were you thinking that the guidelines for admission to the Eucharist between the Chaldean Church and the Assyrian Church of the East document means that you're a Catholic? If that's what you thought, you were mistaken. You're not fully Catholic. You're not in full communion. The documents I cited say explicitly you're not a Catholic. You're a non-Catholic. And you would need to seek full communion with the Catholic Church by making a profession of faith in a Chaldean Catholic Church, or doing so in a Latin Rite church with the appropriate approbations from the local bishops and or the Holy See. Until then, you're not fully Catholic. So you can't say I'm a Catholic and a Catholic apologist, as you just said 3 weeks ago. If you want to say you're Catholic, then guess what? Jay Dyer is also Catholic by the very same criteria that you're Catholic. And are you going to say that Jay Dyer is Catholic? Is that your position, Sam? Now, Sam, if you have been formally received, then you need to produce the evidence from the parish. Because as of 3 weeks ago, you just indicated to people you haven't completed that process. That was out of your own mouth. You just told people in a very subtle way, you weren't clear with them about it, but you said that you haven't finished your journey yet. But then you said right before that you're Catholic and a Catholic apologist. You should have clarified and told people, well, technically, I'm not a Catholic. Technically, I'm not a Catholic apologist. Technically, I'm not in full communion with the Catholic Church, but I'm working on that. If you're working on that, you need to come out and say that. If you've already done that, why did you say this 3 weeks ago? And can you produce evidence for it, showing? Because I just produced the evidence showing you that I was fully received into the Catholic Church. Can you do that too? Now, Catholic shows, as I just have shown, and Catholic followers are entitled to know if Sam is fully Catholic in light of his claims that he's made so far. And also, he himself says new converts shouldn't teach. He says that about me because he falsely claims I'm a new convert. According to his own mouth, he condemns himself, because it would seem he's not even a new convert. He hasn't even reached that bar yet. Why is he teaching? Why is he doing this? Who's your spiritual director? Who's your teacher? What's your catechetical formation? Do you have any approbation from anyone to do any of this? Because you're not fully Catholic if all of this I've demonstrated is accurate. So why are you saying that you're a Catholic apologist in your teaching? And by the way, you admitted in that video that you don't know a whole lot about Catholicism. You shouldn't be teaching, and you shouldn't be an apologist if you don't know a whole lot. And you've admitted I know way more than you about Catholicism. So take it from me, you need to take some time off, probably rectify your situation, maybe come into full communion if you haven't actually done that, and maybe take some time to study before you become a Catholic apologist. He says he's a Catholic apologist, but now we're seeing some serious problems here. People are entitled to know the truth. So Sam needs to not only produce the receipts to show that he's Catholic, if he is, but he also needs to explain how he's consistent on this point. If new converts shouldn't be teaching, Sam, what are you doing? I know non-Catholics have called you out for this. What are you doing, Sam? Now, non-Catholics who debate Sam Shamoun, when they come to debate, they're thinking Sam is a Catholic. So they're entitled, non-Catholics are entitled to know whether they're debating a Catholic or not. They're entitled to this information, as are his donors and his followers. Another question that I have, and I'll show some receipts. Why is Sam calling out Catholic apologists like Jimmy Akin and Voice of Reason, among others, when it appears that Sam hasn't actually converted to Catholicism formally? You don't know what I'm talking about? Well, you should. Let me show you. Let's go ahead and go there. As I said, I have receipts for everything. Shamounian, 2 months ago. 2 months ago. I did not know how far gone folks like Jimmy Akin, this is only one of his tirades, and it's actually the most respectful one of them. Jimmy Akin and Paul Thigpen are, and how blasphemous and dangerous their views are. These nut jobs not only claim that aliens may exist, but there may have been multiple incarnations of the Son, which include multiple mothers of God, since they entertain the possibility that the Son may have become an alien for their redemption. I actually brought Jimmy Akin on the show a few years ago and asked him is that his position. So I'll let him speak for himself. Akin not only should step down. So he tells Jimmy Akin, who's been doing apologetics 30 years, this guy, the arrogance. Sam, it looks like you haven't even formally become a Catholic. You call yourself a Catholic apologist, and you're telling a guy who is a formal Catholic, a seasoned veteran who has been through hell and back and has done 30 years of apologetics in the Catholic Church, you're telling that guy he needs to step down? Akin not only should step down, but should be really committed to serious psychiatric treatment, he says. Only someone, by the way, this is total projection, only someone who has lost any sense of reality would dare entertain these blasphemous views as theological possibilities. Thigpen should also be committed along with him. Well, I've had both of these gentlemen on the show, Jimmy Akin and Paul Thigpen. I'm not here to speak for them, but whether or not he's accurately representing them, I think that can certainly be challenged. But the point here is, he's going after an actual Catholic apologist, while portraying himself as a Catholic and a Catholic apologist, when it appears that he might not actually even be in full communion with the Catholic Church. Unless he can produce the receipts, it is what it is. He says, may Christ save his church. Which church? The one that you say that the Catholic Church is just one among many apostolic churches? That one? That heretical ecclesiology you've been disseminating in your shows? Because you don't know the difference between dogma and heresy, and you don't know Catholic ecclesiology? Which church? Anyways, may Christ save his church from such false teachings, and may Christ purge me of my impurities and unworthiness, so as to continue to glorify him until he returns. Oh, so pious, so pious. Just like how earlier I showed on the video, you lied, and then you did the sign of the cross in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit right after lying. So pious and holy. Okay, now watch this one. calls out voice of reason multiple times. 1 month ago, for all you fangirls and fakes out there attacking and demonizing me for not kissing butt, the discussion with the arrogant, lying George Junk and voice of reason was so bad that now Avoiding Babylon feels the need to chime in and address it. I even have gotten a lot of feedback from Catholic apologists and others who are disgusted by Alex's performance since he allowed George to cut him off and dominate him. Even though this is the same hypocrite who says he doesn't want to debate but only to learn. Therefore, all you arrogant fake Catholics who think you are better or more spiritual and Christ-like need to shut up and truly repent of your fake piety and arrogance. Remove the beams from your eyes before worrying about mine. Talk about projection. Talk about irony. Talk about inconsistency. Calling out an actual Catholic who is an actual Catholic apologist, when what we're seeing here is it doesn't appear that Sam is actually fully a Catholic. But wait, there's more. Sam, as I'm going to show, let me pull it up. Let me get the screenshot. Let me see. Yep, there it is. I'll pull it up on the screen here in just a second. Sam, you were recently sharing silly videos about me, telling me to come back home to the Catholic Church. But Sam, it appears that you aren't even fully a Catholic. Why would you call me to come back home to the Catholic Church when I have been formally received into the Catholic Church 13 years ago? But it appears that you haven't been. Father Sharon slams Loftonism and shows why he needs to step away for now. Michael Lofton, come back home. Well, as I told y'all with Jason Charron, I showed abundance of evidence showing where he slandered Father Casey Cole. I showed you where he is disseminating heresy. I suspect he's just materially doing so. I sure hope not that it's formal, but I showed that. And I also showed some other difficulties with some of the things he's put out. He was really upset and hurt by that. His pride was wounded. And so he came back, did a straw man video that didn't engage with any of my real videos. Tried to tell me I need to look into Dona Veritatis when I have lectures going through Dona Veritatis numerous times. And the irony is I literally did a show on Dona Veritatis days before he said that. Not engaging my view, straw manning me, slandering me, and not addressing the facts, my actual position, or the real problems with him. And that's all I'll say about Jason Charron. Nothing else really needs to be said if you've been following that situation. But here he shares that, saying to me, come back home. Wait, Sam, how can you say that if you haven't been received into the you haven't come back home, it would seem, Sam. If you have come home, Sam, can you produce some evidence showing that? I just showed you my receipts. I just showed you my paperwork. I show you more. And I've been clear with people about my situation. I wrote all about it in Eastern Orthodoxy. I converted to Catholicism in 2012, as I've shown people. In 2017 to 2019, I went to Eastern Orthodoxy. I've been public about it. I've talked about it on the Matt Fradd show. I've done numerous videos. I'm the one calling people's attention to it. I'm the one who's told people that. I wrote about it in this book. Got a whole book talking about it. Came back into full communion with the Catholic Church 2019. I'm not a new convert by any stretch of the imagination or by any definition. But the odd and ironic thing is it looks like I'm being called out by somebody who hasn't been fully received into the Catholic Church. Make that one make sense. Sam, have you been upfront with your viewers and patrons about this information that I just shared? If so, where? When did you do that? When did you share that? Can you show us dates, times, timestamps? Can you show us your paperwork? Sam, honest question. Did you think that you could weasel your way into the Catholic Church and Catholic circles without formally converting? Did you think that nobody would notice and catch this? Did you think nobody was paying attention? It was the first question I asked. Now, if that's not true about you, if you didn't do that, or you're just mistaken, you thought you were Catholic, but it turns out, okay, now you learned that you're not Catholic, are you going to be upfront with your patrons and audience and the public about that? And say, hey guys, sorry, I was mistaken. I thought I was Catholic because I've been receiving the Eucharist, and the Code of Canon Law lets me receive the Eucharist. So I thought I was Catholic, y'all. I thought I was. Is that what it was? Is this just a big misunderstanding, Sam? And you were honest to God, just under the impression you were Catholic, but you aren't? And if you have been fully received, show the paperwork. Your parish has that paperwork. They could show that information, just like I showed mine. It's documented. And if you show that information, show the date on it. Because I want to know, don't show me some paperwork with a date that is after today's date, which is June 27th. Because that would then tell me you rushed to get this thing fixed, and then you just showed a document saying you're in full communion after the fact. Show me something that shows you've been a Catholic and therefore are a Catholic apologist before June the 22nd, 2025. Show me that. Show the dates, like I showed you the dates on mine. Okay? My question to you includes this. Sam, do you have any plans on being formally received into the Catholic Church if you haven't? If so, what is the delay? What's taking so long? It should be like really, really easy process. What's the delay? Because you've been talking about how you're Catholic for a long time now. What's the delay? Are you going to show the evidence if you are formally received into the church? If not, why not? And again, will you show the dates on that certificate showing that your reception was before today's date? Before I'm exposing this information? If you have been fully received, you have made that profession of faith, show the evidence just like I did. I'm not asking you to do anything that I wouldn't do. Sam, why are you doing streams with people, as I just showed, saying that you converted to Catholicism, saying, talking about your journey home story if you haven't been formally received into the Catholic Church? Now, I know how they're going to Sam-splain this, some of his followers, and how Sam will probably explain this away. Again, he'll probably just say, well, the guidelines allow me to receive the Eucharist. Right, but they also allow Jay Dyer to receive the Eucharist. That doesn't mean Jay Dyer is fully Catholic. As I just showed, there's more to it than that. Yes, you could receive the Eucharist right now without being a Catholic. Yes, you can, Sam. That the law of the church allows that, but that doesn't make you Catholic. So some will probably try to say that. I've already disseminated or dispelled that misinformation. Now, some of his followers might say, well, look, Michael, he's Catholic because he defends the Catholic faith. Excuse me, that's not what makes you Catholic. And also, he's been calling out actual Catholics, telling them not to be Catholic apologists. And there's this big glaring problem. Some say, well, Michael, why are you picking on Sam? Some people have said this to me. Oddly enough, it's Sam who's obsessed with me and constantly picks on me. The 1% of the time that I respond, I'm the one picking on him. Okay. Michael, why are you picking on Sam? He's doing so much good for the kingdom of God. Excuse me. If he hasn't been fully received into the church, then he's deceiving people by claiming to be something he's not. And if he's going to be Catholic, he should be clear that he is not yet Catholic and is still in that process, as he suggested in that video very indirectly. He should be upfront and very clear with people about that point. Now, if the Sam-splainers try to say, well, Sam is already Catholic since he's a catechumen. Is he a catechumen? Is he? But even if he were, that's not what the law of the church says. The law of the church still says that he's a non-Catholic. The church calls people in Sam's situation, if he has not been fully received with a profession of faith, it explicitly still calls him a non-Catholic. I just showed documents that show that. So it can't be splained away. It has to be addressed head on. Now, what happens is Sam has blocked me for years now. So I've never been able to directly engage him. He's a coward and doesn't want me to engage him in his own audience, showing a response to the things that he says on his channel about me. He'll tag me, but it doesn't allow me to respond because he's got me blocked. And because of that, I can't go to his channel and say, here's what the deal is. And I can't ask these questions. So you'll have to ask it for him. But here's the thing. I've already noticed that Sam doesn't actually watch my response videos. In the rare cases where I actually respond to his stupidity, he doesn't watch them. It's so clear. We've seen that in the community comment section where he just keeps going on and on and on. And I've further clarified what my position is, made it very clear to him, and he still doesn't get the memo because he's not watching the video. He's likely just going based on what somebody else said about a snippet of my video, and he's just hearing what they say, and then he runs with it. He's not actually watching this. He likely won't watch this video. He didn't watch my video from yesterday. He likely won't engage this directly. So it's going to be up to you guys in the audience to ask him these questions. And hey, if everything checks out, if Sam can show evidence that he is fully Catholic, he's made that profession of faith, he's registered at a parish, because where he makes the profession of faith, that parish will have him registered. If he can show that documentation, that will clear everything up. Now, he might make some weasel, cowardly excuse of, well, I don't want to disclose my address. Excuse me? Everybody knows where I'm from. I tell people very clearly what my name is, where I'm at, everything. I just showed y'all the address of the parish. So don't give me the stuff about, oh, well, you know, I don't want people seeing the address of everything. Well, it's not even your address. It's just the address of the parish. But you can block that out. Just show the certificate. Just show the paperwork, and you can redact that information. But just show where it says Sam Shamoun was received on this or that date, and you could redact literally everything else. That should be enough. And if all the paperwork checks out, great, wonderful. But according to Sam, he still shouldn't be doing apologetics because, as he's told me, new converts shouldn't be doing apologetics and teaching. So he's condemned by his own words. But if he can produce receipts and evidence, wonderful, wonderful. But by your own mouth, you're condemned, and you shouldn't be doing apologetics by your own admission. And if you can't produce that receipt and you can't show that you're fully Catholic, can you explain to everyone on YouTube why you've been going on shows presenting yourself as Catholic, why you're telling them you have this conversion and journey home process, why you've been telling them you're a Catholic apologist if you're not fully in communion with the Catholic Church? You wouldn't say Jay Dyer is a Catholic. So you couldn't say that you are either. That's the real problem here. Can you explain that to everyone? I sure hope to God, Sam, for the sake of your own soul, that you can produce some receipts showing that you have been formally received into the church. Because if you can't, you got a lot of explaining to do to your donors, your patrons, to Christians of all sorts, to Catholics, to non-Catholics, to the people you've been debating, everyone. You got to answer to those people and explain yourself. And it's not going to fly by saying, well, I received communion at a Catholic church. That's not going to fly. That's not an excuse. And you should know better if you're out there calling Catholic apologists out, telling them to step down. Some of these people are veterans for 30 years. If you want to get into this arena and have conversations with the Catholics and non-Catholics, you better know what you're doing. You better know your stuff. I've already seen other Catholics eat your lunch and tear you apart. And I'm seeing non-Catholics do it. You're an embarrassment to the Catholic community just because you claim that you're Catholic. And now if it turns out you've been embarrassing Catholics and you're not fully Catholic, you got a lot to answer for. Y'all hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, because I already know I'll get a lot of heat from this. I already know some of his cult followers will continue to harass me like they've done for years. But you know what? It is what it is. They're going to harass me one way or another, whether I say something or not. But he opened the door to this by saying, I'm not, I'm a recent convert and all that. He opened the door, and then his followers came to me saying that he hasn't been fully received into the church. And so now I'm asking questions. He stepped into this. But go ahead and support me, show some appreciation. I'd greatly appreciate it because I know a lot of people won't. That's going to do it. See you.